The bridge was not supposed to break. People screamed as cars jammed bumper to bumper. A tanker truck burned at the center span, coughing dark smoke into the sky. Tourists held up phones. Drones buzzed. A news chopper hovered close. Its cameras zoomed all the way in on the bright red cape floating above the chaos. Homelander hovered there, hands on his hips, smile locked in place. "Stay calm, folks," his voice boomed from hidden speakers along the bridge. "The Seven have everything under control." They did not. Steel cables snapped with sharp, ugly cracks. A whole lane of the bridge sagged. A bus tilted, front wheels over empty air. People inside pressed against windows, faces white. Somewhere off to the side, a Vought director yelled into a headset, "Keep rolling, don't cut the feed. We can fix it in post." Starlight stood near the stuck cars, power humming under her skin. She glanced at the cameras, then at the bus. The math was simple. There were too many people, not enough hands. "Homelander, the supports," she started. He raised one finger, still posing. "We're fine, Annie. Smile a bit, yeah? They love the wholesome thing." The bridge groaned. The bus slid another inch. A child's scream cut across the wind. Then the sky tore open. It started as a thin, bright crack high above the burning truck. A line of white, like someone had drawn across the blue with a laser. The air shook. The crack widened into a jagged circle of blinding light. Wind rushed inward. Loose papers, ash, and a few unlucky drones spiraled up toward it. "What the?" A-Train muttered, squinting under his goggles. The crowd looked up. Phones tilted. The Vought director swore and shouted at the camera crew to zoom in on the special effect. 7 shapes tumbled out of the hole in the sky. They fell fast, all tangled for a second, then spread out without thinking, like they had done this 100 times in 100 disasters. A red and gold streak slammed its boots into the air and stopped dead, repulsors roaring. Gold armor snapped into place around it. "Okay, that's not good," Tony Stark said inside his helmet, eyes flicking over new readings. "New York's traffic is still awful in every universe." Beside him, a man in blue, red, and white hit an overhead cable, bounced, and landed in a crouch on the bridge. A round shield of strange metal rang against the asphalt. Captain America looked up at the smoke, at the bus, at the people. His brain shifted into battlefield mode. "Thor, cables," he shouted. "Hulk, under the span. We lose this lane, we lose everything." A roar answered him from below as a huge green shape smashed through a lower maintenance platform and planted itself under the weakest part of the bridge. Hulk braced both hands against the sagging metal and pushed. Muscles knotted like steel cables. The bridge shuddered, but stopped sinking. High above, a broad-shouldered figure with long blonde hair whirled a short-handled hammer. Lightning crawled up his arms. "I hear you, Captain," Thor called. He flew, cloak snapping, and slammed into the side of a main support tower, driving Mjolnir into the concrete. Blue-white arcs of power raced through the structure, welding cracks shut and tightening bolts that had already started to slip. A red and blue blur swung through the air. "Friendly neighborhood. Wow, okay, that's new," Spider-Man said as he shot web after web, sticking the back edge of the bus to the road. His mask lenses widened as he saw Homelander hovering above. Did we crash a movie set? Inside the bus, people stopped screaming for a moment and stared at the thin teenager stuck to their window, hanging by webs. "Hi," he said. "Please stay seated until the ride has come to a complete stop." He anchored the front, then zipped to the back, webbing up broken barriers so no one would fall through. His heart hammered, but the pattern felt familiar. falling bus, panicked people, weird flying guy in a cape, just a different brand of weird. On the far side, Black Widow darted along the lane, yanking doors open and pulling people out of cars. Hawkeye stood on top of an SUV, firing trick arrows that snapped safety lines into place and pinned loose beams. Starlight froze, watching them. They weren't posing. They weren't looking at the cameras. They weren't shouting slogans. They were just working, fast, clean, like they did this every day. Homelander watched too, jaw tight. The cameras, the drones, the helicopter, all of them had turned away from him and were now tracking the newcomers. "Who the hell are these clowns?" he whispered, smile still frozen. The man with the shield looked up at him, eyes calm and sharp. "Civilians first," Captain America called. "You fly, right? Take that truck, clear a path." Homelander blinked. He was not used to anyone giving him orders, and definitely not used to being told to move the truck instead of stand above it and talk. "I've got this," he said, now louder for the cameras. "This is my city." He still didn't move. Iron Man's visor flicked toward him. Inside, Tony's HUD poured data across the screen. "Flight, basic energy projection, strength in the Hulk light range, ego off the charts," Tony muttered. "And those logos, what? He's sponsored." He kicked into a hard burn, diving toward the tanker. Nanoplates shifted. Foam cannons popped from his shoulders and blasted white spray over the flames, smothering them before the fuel could spill. "Truck's handled. You're welcome," Tony said. Homelander's eyes narrowed. Heat glowed faint and red at their centers. On the edges of the bridge, people cheered. Someone started chanting, "Avengers, Avengers," because they had seen a movie once, in another life, and the name felt right for what they were seeing now. The Vought director swore again. "Get that guy's name. We need a logo by tonight." A giant holographic billboard at the far end of the bridge flickered. An emergency alert banner read, "Unknown super threat. Stay inside vehicles." It glitched. The words broke apart, rearranged. New text scrolled across in bright, bold letters. "Avengers, you're welcome." Tony smirked inside his helmet. At least the fonts here are compatible. Homelander flew lower, heat vision dimming as he forced a smile back onto his face. He wanted to tear that billboard out of the ground. He wanted to rip the man in red and gold out of the sky. Later, he told himself. Not with the cameras on. Not while he was still guessing what these people could do. The bridge creaked one last time and settled. Hulk gave a snort and shoved, hard, to lock the metal in place. Dust rained down. Thor landed beside him, clapped the big green shoulder. "Well struck, friend," Thor said, laughing. Hulk grunted. "Puny bridge." Captain America stepped into the center of the lane, breathing hard, scanning the crowd. People were crying, shaking, hugging each other. No bodies on the ground. No cars in the water. He allowed himself one small nod. Mission stable. Then he looked up at the floating man in the blue and white suit. "Name's Captain America," he called. "We don't want trouble, but we need to know where we are and who's in charge here." Homelander's smile twitched at the corners. This was still his world, his cameras, his story. He tilted his head, eyes cold, and answered for the microphones, not for the man with the shield. "You're on my Earth," he said, "and if you're staying, you're going to play by my rules." The wind tugged at Cap's helmet wings and at Homelander's cape. Between them, for a moment, the whole broken bridge held its breath. Somewhere far away, executives and politicians stared at screens and saw a problem they had never planned for. A new kind of hero had just dropped into the boys' world, and nothing about the old script was going to work anymore. They chose the tallest roof they could find. It was an office tower a few blocks from the bridge, glass cracked from the earlier shockwave. The top floor was empty, desks standing in neat rows, computer screens dark. The Avengers gathered among the dust and abandoned swivel chairs like ghosts from another war. Tony stripped off his helmet and let it fold back into his chest plate. His hair was a mess. His eyes were locked on the glowing blue model in front of him, projected from his wrist. "This isn't our New York," he said. The hologram spun slowly. The city grid looked right at first glance, then wrong in 100 tiny ways. Different building names, odd clusters of branded towers, a massive skyscraper with a giant V on the side, shining like a second sun. Cap walked around the holomap, shield on his arm, sweat drying on his neck. "Different how?" he asked. "Different everything," Tony said. He pointed at a data column. "Energy. Grid doesn't match Stark's system. No Avengers Tower. No records of our world's events. No Sokovia. No Thanos. It's like we got pulled sideways instead of forward or back." Spider-Man had his mask off too, brown hair sticking up. He stood by a cracked window, looking down at the city. Huge screens on nearby buildings replayed the bridge rescue already, with bright graphics and a Vought logo in the corner. Peter said. "Did we get teleported into a giant ad?" Natasha came back from scouting the stairwell. "Building's clear," she said. "No sign we were followed. But the police down there don't look like ours. The badges say Vought Security, not NYPD." Bruce, back in human form and wearing spare clothes from the Quinjet emergency kit, rubbed his temples. "So we're in a parallel reality, where a private company owns the cops and puts its logo on skyscrapers," he said. "That explains nothing and everything." Thor wandered to the window, eyes on the largest Vought tower. "At least they build tall," he said. "I always respect a kingdom that is not afraid to show its power." "Not a kingdom," Tony said. "A corporation. Worse." Cap watched one of the giant screens as it cut to a news anchor desk. A smiling woman with perfect hair stared out at the city. "Breaking news from Vought News Network," she said. A clip of the bridge played behind her. "Today, a mysterious super-powered group appeared above New York City in what some are calling a foreign attack. Our own Homelander and the Seven were on scene to protect us." The footage of Thor welding the cables flashed again, but the narrator's tone never changed. "These unknown individuals have not yet made any statement through proper channels," she continued. "Until then, citizens are urged to stay calm and trust the Seven." Cap's jaw tightened. "They're already calling us a threat." Tony zoomed the hologram out until the whole planet floated between them. "We need data," he said. Sorry, old habit. Friday, run full spectrum scans. I want satellite patterns, power sources, everything that might help us find a way home." "On it," the AI replied in his ear. "Also, Tony, you've already been renamed twice on social media." "Oh, good," Tony said, rolling his eyes. "What are we? Mystery Men? Cape Squad? Current top tags, Alien Invaders and Budget Justice League," Friday said. Peter winced. "Ouch." Hawkeye leaned back on a desk, arms crossed. "So we're stuck in a world that thinks we're knockoff superheroes," he said. "Could be worse. At least nobody's tried to sell my arrows yet." "Give it 12 hours, Natasha said. Outside, the city buzzed. Sirens wailed in the distance. Helicopters circled. Somewhere down there, ordinary people were posting shaky videos of Hulk holding up a bridge like it was a coffee table. Cap took a slow breath and pulled. his thoughts into a straight line. "Okay," he said. "Here's what we know. We saved lives. We made a lot of noise. Someone already controls the story here, and it's not us. Our job is the same as always. Protect people. Figure out if this place is worth helping. Find a way back if we can." He looked at each of them in turn. Thor's easy grin, Tony's tired eyes, Banner's worried frown, Natasha's guarded face, Clint's calm stare, Peter's anxious energy. "Until we know more," Cap said. "We don't pick fights we don't have to. We don't topple governments. We don't sign any contracts." "Spoil sport," Tony said. But he nodded. Down in a cramped safe house across town, someone slammed a laptop shut. "Absolutely bloody not," Billy Butcher said. Huey flinched at the sound. The rest of the boys sat around an old table littered with takeout boxes and printouts. On one wall, a TV played the same bridge footage on loop with the sound off. "They're not Vought," Huey said. "At least I don't think so. Did you see them? They weren't posing. They just got to work." "They fell out of a hole in the sky, Huey," Butcher said. "That's not a good sign in my book. That's a sign of a bigger, uglier experiment." Mother's Milk flipped through photos, his big fingers careful on the edges. "Their faces don't match any soup files," he said. "No V-coded history, no contract sheets. It's like they don't exist here." Frenchie squinted at a freeze frame of Thor holding Mjolnir, lightning spiking around him. "This one," he said softly. "He's not like the others. The way the energy gathers, the way it arcs. This is not Compound V. This is something else." Kimiko stared at Hulk on the screen. Her eyes were dark and unreadable, but her hand tightened on her chair. Huey swallowed. "What if they're actually good?" he asked. Butcher laughed, short and sharp. "There's no such thing, Sunshine," he said. "Not in capes. Vought wraps them in flags and tells you they're heroes. Then they drop a plane out of the sky and sell action figures." He jabbed a finger at the paused image of Captain America, shield raised. "We find out what they are," Butcher said. "Then we decide if we kill them before or after they join the queue with the rest." Huey looked at the man on the screen. The way he moved. The way he had barked orders at the flying guy without caring about the cameras. He couldn't shake the feeling that this one was different. Across the city, another person was thinking the same thing. Annie sat alone in her dressing room at Vought Tower, still in her starlight costume. Glitter lights from the mirror reflected in her tired eyes. A muted TV on the wall replayed the bridge rescue. The anchors talked about foreign supers and possible threats. None of them mentioned the way Captain America had put his body between falling debris and a group of kids without checking where the cameras were. She remembered his voice. Calm, firm. No brand catchphrase. "We don't want trouble," he'd said. "We need to know where we are and who's in charge." She pulled out her phone and typed, fingers moving fast. "Hey, you saw the news, right? We need to talk about these guys." She sent it to Huey, then stood up and walked to the window. From here, she could see the giant Vought logo glowing over the city. On the top floor above her, behind tinted glass, Stan Edgar watched the same footage with a very different expression. He didn't look scared. He looked interested. "Foreign supers," he said calmly to the board members around him. "New assets or new threats. Either way, this is an opportunity." Beside him, Victoria Newman watched too, eyes narrow. "We have to get to them before Homelander does," she said, "or before they decide they like it here." "Of course," Edgar said. "We always do." On the rooftop, Friday finished her sweep. "Tony," she said in his ear, "I've mapped local networks and media control. One company name keeps repeating, Vought International. They own half this city and most of the heroes. Figures, Tony said. He zoomed in on the Vought tower until it filled the hologram. Corporate overlords with capes on payroll. Worst timeline. Cap stepped next to him. Then that's who we talk to, he said. We start at the top. Tony glanced at him. You sure you don't want to start with the flying psycho who tried to burn Hulk's head off? Cap's eyes didn't leave the tower. He'll come to us, he said. Men like that always do when they feel something slipping out of their control. He slid his helmet back on. Until then, Cap said, we watch, we listen, and we help where we can, no matter what they call us on TV. Far below, on every screen, the banner read, Mystery Supers invade New York. Are we safe? The world was already choosing sides, and none of the people in charge had the full story yet. They did not get a polite invitation. They got a joint mission briefing, wrapped in sugar and threats. The message came through every channel at once. News alerts, city loudspeakers. A Vought agent in a spotless suit even showed up in person at the base building Natasha had marked as safe. He stood in the doorway of the empty office floor, holding a tablet, flanked by 2 armored guards with Vought logos on their chests. On behalf of Vought International and the Seven, he said, I'm here to extend a warm welcome to our city and request your presence on a cooperative security response. Tony raised a hand. You rehearsed that in the mirror, didn't you? The agent didn't blink. There is a credible threat of superpowered terrorism at Hudson Port, he said. Vought and the city would appreciate your assistance. The eyes of the world are on us. This is a chance to show that we can all get along. Cap stepped forward, visor up so the man could see his face. What's the threat? He asked. Rogue soups, the agent said. Stolen Compound V. Dangerous individuals. Vought has intel they plan to hit a major shipping hub. Civilians will be at risk. Natasha watched his hands, his eyes, the slight twitch at the corner of his mouth. You already have cameras on site, she said. It wasn't a question. He hesitated only a second. Of course, he said. Transparency builds trust. Uh-huh, she said. Cap looked at his team. We help, he said quietly. People could die if we don't, but we assume it's a setup. Tony sighed, then tapped his chest. Red and gold plates flowed back into place. If we're doing this with the home team, he said, I'm at least naming the squad. At Hudson Port, the stage was already set. Cargo ships queued in the harbour, cranes towering overhead. Containers stacked like colourful bricks built a maze across the dock. A small crowd of reporters and influencers stood behind a metal barrier, cameras ready. Big screens on nearby buildings showed a live countdown. Joint response. The 7+. The Avengers arrived in a clean line of light and sound. Iron Man streaked in first, slowing to hover above the docks. Thor came next, carried by Mjolnir and Thunder. Hulk landed like a meteor on a clear patch of concrete, leaving a fresh crater. Cap, Natasha, Hawkeye, and Spider-Man arrived by Quinjet, ramp lowering with a hiss. On the opposite side, the Seven stood in a perfect V formation for the cameras. Homelander at the point, Maeve at his right, Starlight at his left. A-Train bounced on his heels. The Deep had been dragged along and was trying to pose like he belonged near a harbour. Black Noir just waited, still as a shadow. The crowd murmured as both teams faced each other. Homelander flashed his practiced grin. Glad you could make it, he said. Thought maybe alien invaders don't do appointments. Tony scanned him again. Same readings as before. High power, yes, but still bounded by physics in ways Thor rarely was. Traffic was murder, Tony said. Nice place you've got here. Very industrial. A giant digital screen above them flickered. Vaught's logo spun, then split. A new graphic appeared. The 7+. The strangers. Tony groaned out loud. Absolutely not, he said. Tony, Cap warned. But Tony was already talking quietly to Friday. Patch me into their sign, he said. And the broadcast feed if you can. Already inside, Friday replied. The logo glitched. For a heartbeat, the text scrambled. Then it reformed into 3 simple words. The 7+, the Avengers. The crowd reacted instantly. Chants started. Hashtags were born. Vaught's media team scrambled in the control truck. Homelander's smile went a little stiff. You don't get to name yourselves, he said. Sure we do, Tony said. We paid the trademark fees back home. Cap stepped between them. We can argue about branding later, he said. What's the threat? Over the port's loudspeakers, a nervous voice from Vought security answered. Confirmed rogue soups inside the container maze, the man said. At least 4. Enhanced by stolen V+ formula. Orders are to neutralize with extreme prejudice. V+? Banner asked over the comms from the Quinjet, where he monitored readings. Tony, the energy signatures at the center are unstable. Spikes all over the spectrum. Think Hulk on a bad day, bottled and shaken. Huey and the boys listened from a van parked in a side lot. Frenchie had tapped into Vaught's radio channel. Butcher watched through binoculars. Look at all the capes, Butcher muttered. It's like a circus. Those rogue soups? said, nodding at the maze. You think they're really terrorists, or just more of Vaught's lab rats? Does it matter? Butcher said. They're dangerous. That's all we need to know. And the Avengers? Huey asked. Butcher didn't lower the binoculars. We see who they hit, he said. That'll tell us everything. Steel groaned somewhere inside the container stacks. A low, animal roar echoed out, followed by a sudden flash of green light between the gaps. Showtime, Tony said. Cap divided the field without waiting for Homelander. Thor, take the air. Watch for long-range blasts. Hulk, you're with me on point. Natasha, Clint, Spidey, evacuate workers and pin down any hostiles we can't see yet. Tony, overhead sweep and fire control. And us? Homelander asked, voice dripping sugar. You do what you claim to do, Cap said. Save people, don't grandstand. Homelander's smile didn't reach his eyes. Of course, he said. The teams moved. Hulk charged first, green feet pounding the concrete, tearing a path between containers. Cap ran beside him, shield up. Thor rose into the air on a column of wind. Iron Man climbed higher, scanners wide open. Inside the maze, the temperature spiked. The first rogue soup stepped out from behind a container row, bare arms glowing orange. His eyes were wild. Veins pulsed with light under his skin. He screamed and slammed his hands into the ground. A shockwave rolled out, lifting dirt, dust, and debris. Cap braced, shield angled. The wave hit him and spread around, splitting like water around a rock. Hulk took it head on, barely slowing. Guys like a budget Hulkbuster battery, Tony said, tagging him in the HUD. Call him Shockwave Jr. Hulk grinned. Hulk likes Shockwave Jr. He grabbed a container and used it as a shield, pushing through the blast. When he got close enough, he dropped the metal box and swung. One punch, straight to the chest. The soup flew backward, smashing through 3 containers in a row. On a high stack, another rogue soup breathed in, deep. Frost spilled from his mouth. He raised his arms, and a wave of ice raced along the metal, trying to trap Thor's legs. Thor laughed, lightning licking around his boots. A little cold has never bothered me, he said. He threw Mjolnir. The hammer hit the ice wave, shattered it, then curved to crack the soup in the shoulder. The man flipped off the container stack, landing in a heap. Starlight moved fast, eyes bright. She blasted a collapsing crane cable, melting it apart before it could fall on fleeing workers. Spider-Man landed beside her, webbing up a falling pallet of boxes. "Nice shot," he said. "You too," she answered, a little surprised by the easy team-up. Near the edge of the maze, a train zipped between containers, pulling dazed dock workers to safety. He tried to make sure every move included a good angle for cameras. More than once, he skidded to a stop to flash a grin at a drone. Then a rogue soup with density power stepped out of a side path, skin turning grey and heavy. He swung a fist as A-Train blurred past. The punch caught him by surprise, clipping his shoulder. A-Train spun, crashed into a stack of crates, and lay there groaning. "Damn it," he muttered. "This was supposed to be my comeback clip." Huey winced as he watched. "They're not ready for this," he said. "They're used to stage stuff, not real fights." Inside the maze, Cap and Hulk pressed forward. Another rogue with spiky, bone-like armor charged Hulk from the side. Hulk let him hit, then grabbed the man's arms and squeezed. The spikes snapped. The soup screamed. "Hulk tired of Pointy," Hulk said, and knocked him out with a headbutt. Cap moved like he had danced through war zones his whole life. He ducked blasts, slid under swinging arms, bounced his shield off container walls to hit enemies from strange angles. One rogue aimed an energy beam at a group of trapped workers. Cap threw his shield. It collided with the soup's wrist, knocking his aim up. The beam shot harmlessly into the sky. Above it all, Homelander hovered, watching. He had taken down one rogue early, grabbing the man by the throat and snapping his neck with a smile for the cameras. Vaught's drones had caught every frame of it. But then the Avengers had surged forward. Thor's lightning filled the sky. Hulk's roars shook the port. Iron Man's repulsors painted the air with light, and the crowd had started chanting their name. "Avengers! Avengers!" Homelander ground his teeth. His hands clenched. His eyes burned. He swooped down toward a remaining rogue in the middle of the field. The soup's hands crackled with unstable green energy. He was aiming at Hulk's back. Homelander fired his heat vision. The beam cut through the air straight toward the rogue. It would pass close to a cluster of workers huddled behind a container and close to Hulk's head. From the ground, it looked like an oops waiting to happen. "Banner!" Tony snapped, seeing the path. "Duck!" Hulk dropped his head reflexively. The beam scraped past his hair and carved a molten line into the concrete inches from the workers' feet. They screamed and fell back. Homelander landed hard, boots cracking the pavement. He smiled as if nothing had gone wrong. "Saved your green hide," he said. Cap's voice cut through the noise, sharp. "You almost cooked those people," he shouted. "Eyes on the civilians, not on your ego." Microphones caught every word. The feed went live. Homelander turned slow, cape rustling. His smile slipped. For a second, the real expression showed. Pure, white-hot anger. "You don't talk to me like that," he said quietly. Cap didn't back down. "I talk to anyone like that if they put people at risk," he said. "We're supposed to protect them, not show off for cameras." Something snapped inside Homelander. He shot straight up, met Thor mid-flight, and slammed into him shoulder first. "Let's see how special you are, Thunderboy," he snarled. Thor staggered, then grinned. "At last," he said. "A worthy warm-up." They clashed above the port, two streaks of color against the sky. Homelander's heat vision flared. Thor spun Mjolnir, batting the beams aside, then called down a bolt of lightning that wrapped around Homelander's body. Homelander screamed. He had been hurt before, but not like this. The charge rattled his bones, burned his skin. He powered through it, punching Thor across the sky. From below, it looked almost even. Almost. Iron Man saw the readings. Homelander was strong, but his output numbers dipped with every hit. Thor's barely moved. Note to self, Tony muttered. Our guy's the real god here. Hulk watched Homelander crash into a crane and bounce off, dazed. Then Hulk leaped. He grabbed Homelander out of the air and smashed him into the ground like a rag doll. The earth shook. A shockwave rippled across the dock. Containers rattled. Homelander tried to blast him with heat vision again. Hulk squeezed his wrist together, forcing his aim into the dirt. Glow eyes man annoying, Hulk said. From the van, Butcher's mouth fell open. Well, I'll be, he said. Cape Wankers finally met someone who can actually hurt him. Inside the Vought control truck, alarms blared. Power spike in Sector 3, a tech yelled. Homelander's vitals are dipping. The director grabbed a radio. Trigger fail-safes, he said. Now. On the dock, hidden guns popped out of container corners. Automated turrets rose from disguised crates. Tiny red dots appeared on Hulk's back, on Thor's chest, on Iron Man's armor. Tony, Natasha shouted over comms. They've got autoguns. The guns opened fire. Bullets pinged off Hulk's skin and Thor's armor. Iron Man's shields flared, but the guns weren't aimed just at them. Some swiveled toward fleeing workers. Others pointed at rogue soups crawling away. Tony dove, deploying hard light shields along a line of containers. Bullets sparked off the glowing barriers. Who installed these? Cap barked, ducking behind his shield as rounds chewed into the ground near him. Vought, Natasha said bitterly. She was in the control tower now, having snuck off during the chaos. She stared at the screen full of turret controls and armed explosives. They set this whole place up to blow if things went wrong. Starlight stood in the open, shining bright. She sucked in every bit of light from the flood lamps and screens, then blasted it outward in a blinding wave. Cameras burned out. Drones spun, blind. Stop shooting, she screamed at the tower. There are still people down here. Maeve stood beside a group of dock workers, sword drawn, deflecting stray bullets. This is what they always do, she muttered. Security first, people second. In the control room, Natasha slammed a stun guard into a console and smashed the emergency stop. The guns went dead. A row of bomb icons on the screen flickered from red to grey. Guns neutralized, she said. You're welcome. On the ground, Hulk still held Homelander pinned. The soup's cape was shredded, suit torn. Blood trickled from one nostril. He had not been pushed this far in years. Thor landed beside them, lightning crackling along his arms. This fight is done, Thor said. Yield, or I will make sure you stay down longer. Homelander looked up at him. For the first time, real fear flickered in his eyes. He realized something important. These strangers were not playing by Vaught's script, and they were stronger than him. He made a choice. He went limp. Hulk blinked, surprised, and loosened his grip a little. In that moment, Homelander twisted free, shot backward into the air, and rocketed toward the harbor. Thor raised Mjolnir to follow. Cap's voice came through the comm. Stand down, Thor, he said. We've got bigger problems than his pride right now. Thor hesitated, then lowered the hammer. He watched as Homelander hit the water with a huge splash and vanished beneath the surface. Minutes later, as the Avengers finished tying up the last rogue soups and helping get workers to ambulances, Homelander rose from the harbor. He hovered above the waves, dripping, hair slicked back. costume torn in all the right places for maximum pity. He looked up at the nearest news chopper and put on his most wounded smile. "Today," he said over the comm, voice trembling just enough, "I was attacked by people who claim to be heroes. But I won't stop protecting you, not ever." The chopper camera zoomed in. The live feed cut together shots of Hulk holding him down and Thor standing over him like an executioner. Back at the port, Tony hacked the nearest billboard again. For a second, the words "Homelander betrayed" flashed. Then they broke apart, forming a new line. Who really protected the port today? He left it there for 3 seconds before Vought wrestled control back and replaced it with their own message. Alert. Alien invaders attack America's greatest hero. On sidewalks and in living rooms, people watched and argued. Some saw Thor welding broken metal and Hulk shielding workers and thought, "The Avengers saved us." Others saw Homelander bleeding for the first time and thought, "Those strangers hurt him. They must be monsters." On the dock, Cap wiped sweat and grime from his face and watched paramedics load injured workers into ambulances. "People walked away who would have died," he said quietly. Natasha nodded. "And now half the world thinks we're the villains," she said. Cap looked out at the harbour, where Homelander still hovered, tiny in the distance, but huge on every screen. "We've been here 2 days," Cap said, "and already, the war isn't just on the ground. It's in the story they tell." He strapped his shield to his back. "Then we make sure we tell the truth," he said, "no matter who owns the cameras." Tony had seen some bad talk shows in his life. Still, this one tried hard to win. He sat on a busted couch in the makeshift base, armor open, a paper cup of coffee cooling in his hand. A wall of stolen screens, old TVs, tablets, a projector on a cracked whiteboard glowed in front of him. All of them showed different channels. All of them talked about the same thing. On one screen, a host waved his hands and shouted, "Roll the clip again," he said. "Right there. Thor and the big green one are beating on Homelander, our Homelander. Where do these aliens get off?" The clip ran again. It showed Hulk slamming Homelander into the ground. It showed Thor standing over him, lightning dancing along his arms. It did not show the rogue soups or the bullets from the Vought guns. It did not show the workers Hulk had shielded with his own body. On another channel, a soft-spoken woman frowned. "We don't know where these Avengers came from," she said. "We don't know what they want, but we do know this. They attacked America's greatest hero on our soil." Tony snapped his fingers at Friday. "Pull me the raw feeds from the port," he said. "Everything Vought streamed before they edited." "Already did," she said in his ear. "You're going to be very mad." He took a sip of coffee and grimaced. It was terrible. He drank more anyway. On one of the screens, a banner at the bottom read, "Homelander victim of alien assault." It flickered. The words broke into static, then reformed. Who pulled the trigger on those guns? The host blinked. The control room behind the glass window exploded into motion. A producer waved his arms. The banner switched back to the original. "Tony," Friday said, "you promised you would not poke every bear at once." "I'm not poking," Tony said. "I'm lightly tapping their narrative with a wrench." He rubbed his eyes. "Maybe if I remind people there were automatic guns aimed at dock workers, someone will ask who paid for them." Spider-Man sat cross-legged on the floor nearby, scrolling through his phone. "People are arguing about you online," Peter said. "Half of them think you're heroes. Half of them think you're, what's a government psyop?" "Something stupid," Tony said, "but points for creativity." Peter turned his phone so Tony could see. A video showed Hulk holding up a crushed crane while workers ran out from under it. The caption read, "Big green guy saved my dad. Thank you, Avengers." Tony watched it twice. On another screen, a commentator smirked. "If these Avengers are so strong, why don't they just leave?" he asked. "If they really cared, they wouldn't cause chaos wherever they go." Tony sighed and finished the coffee. "Because portals don't grow on trees," he muttered. Cap walked in, helmet under his arm. He glanced at the screens, then at Tony. "Any good news?" he asked. Tony thought about lying, then decided against it. "Some people saw what we actually did," he said. "Most people saw what Vought wants them to see." Cap nodded once. "Then we have to get ahead of it," he said. "We can't just react." Tony leaned back. "I've spent my whole life managing PR," he said. "Stark Industries, the Avengers, even my own face. But this," he pointed at the giant Vought tower glowing through the window. "They don't manage stories, they own them." Cap followed his gaze. "Nobody owns the truth," he said quietly. Tony snorted. "Tell that to their ratings." Friday cleared her throat in his ear. "Speaking of ratings," she said, "you have an incoming request for a private strategic meeting from someone called Stan Edgar." Tony looked at Cap. "Well," he said, "at least the boss wants a chat." The room was not fancy. It was expensive, of course. Thick glass, sleek chairs, a table that probably cost more than some cars, but it was plain in a careful way. No movie posters, no Seven merch, just a single, neat Vought logo on the wall. Stan Edgar sat at the end of the table, hands folded. He wore a simple suit and a simple watch. His eyes looked half asleep. Tony knew better than to trust that. Victoria Newman sat beside him, tablet in front of her. She had the look of someone who had spent too many nights reading bills and too many days smiling for cameras. Tony and Bruce faced them. Bruce wore a borrowed shirt and jacket that didn't quite fit his shoulders. Tony wore his suit open, ready to seal at a thought. "Mr. Stark," Edgar said. "Dr. Banner, thank you for coming. I understand your team has had a rough start here." "You could say that," Tony said. "Bridge collapses, port explosions, surprise lasers from the local golden boy." Newman smiled politely. "We're sorry about that," she said. "Our systems were not designed for beings at your level. You're a variable we never planned for." "Story of my life," Tony said. Bruce watched them both, quiet. He had seen men like this in war zones and committee hearings. Calm, polite, dangerous. Edgar tapped his tablet and projected a small hologram on the table. It showed a map of soup activity around the world. Dots blinked in different colors. "You are a market shock," he said. "Our world has built an entire economy around controlled superpowers. Movies, merch, security contracts, political roles. And now you appear, stronger, unaffiliated, impossible to control. That scares people." "Good," Tony said. "Maybe they should have thought about that before injecting babies with mystery juice." Newman's eyes flicked to him. "Compound V is not mystery juice," she said. "It's a tool, a flawed one, yes, but a tool we can make safer, with the right science, with your science." Bruce stiffened. "You want us to help you make more soups," he said. "Better ones, like Homelander, but without the murder." "We want to avoid chaos," Edgar said. "If the world learns that most superheroes were made in a lab, there will be panic, wars, terror groups trying to steal V. We need to control the fallout. We need partners who understand power and responsibility." He looked at Tony. "You could help us," he said. "You could help shape the next generation of heroes. Stable, tested, regulated. You would have access to all our data, all our labs, every secret you crave. In return, we ask that you work within the system, not against it. Tony's fingers drummed on the table. He imagined what he could do with those labs. Patch the holes in V, build safeguards into every dose, maybe fix the ugly parts of this world before they exploded. Bruce spoke first. Our last fix split the Avengers in half and dropped a city from the sky, he said. That was just over a registration law. You're asking us to rewrite the DNA of your entire planet. Newman leaned forward. We're asking you to stop more Homelander situations, she said. You've seen what he is. He's a product of a broken process. We can't just burn the process down. We have to fix it. And you get to stay in charge, Tony said. Edgar smiled faintly. I don't care who is in charge, he said. I care that the system remains stable. People like stability, Mr. Stark. They buy it. There it was. The core. Tony recognized it. He had been that man once, in a different suit. He stood up. We need to think about it, he said. Newman nodded. Of course, she said. But think fast. The longer this goes without order, the more likely someone else will try to take control. And they might not be as responsible. On the walk back to the base, Bruce glanced at Tony. You're thinking about saying yes, Bruce said. Tony shoved his hands in his pockets. I'm thinking, he said, that if we don't help shape what comes next, someone like Edgar will do it alone. And I've seen what happens when you leave weapons only in the hands of people who care about stability. And I'm thinking, Bruce said quietly, about a girl somewhere whose parents signed a form and handed her to Vought. Do we really want to help that machine run smoother? Tony didn't answer. The bar smelled like old smoke and broken promises. Captain America sat at the corner, shoulders relaxed, hands around a glass of water. The bartender had given him a confused look when he ordered it, but didn't argue. The rest of the place didn't care what he drank. They were too busy yelling at the TV above the bar. Footage of the port fight played again, cut to make Homelander look like the brave victim. This is bull, someone started. The door pushed open. Butcher walked in, coat flapping, eyes scanning the room. He spotted Cap at once. Even out of uniform, Steve had a hard time fading into a crowd. Butcher slid onto the stool beside him. The bartender poured him something strong without asking. You know this place? Cap asked. Yeah, Butcher said. Used to meet an old mate here, before Vought blew him up. Cap looked at him. You wanted to talk, he said. Butcher took a long drink. Yeah, he said. I wanted to look you in the eye when I tell you how this world really works. He gestured at the TV. That man in the cape. Homelander. Strongest soup in the world. Everyone loves him. Posters, cereal boxes, little kids in cheap capes. His lip curled. He's also a murderer, a rapist, a walking nuke with the mind of a spoiled child. Cap didn't flinch. He had seen monsters in uniforms before. And he's not the first, Butcher went on. Stormfront, Soldier Boy, whole long list. Every time someone gets that much power here, they turn rotten. Might take a year, might take 10, but they get there because nobody can stop them. Not really. He turned to Cap. Then you lot show up, he said. All shiny and noble, stronger than him, stronger than any of them. You pick up bridges and swat Homelander like a fly, and you tell me you're here to help. Cap held his gaze. We are, he said. Butcher snorted. Yeah. For how long? He asked. Until you get bored. Until someone tells you no and you decide you know better. That's how it goes here. They all say they want to help. Then they start telling the rest of us how to live. Cap thought of the Sokovia Accords, of the time his own government had tried to put a leash on him, of the times he had disobeyed orders because the orders were wrong. "I've seen power used wrong," he said quietly. "I've seen what happens when we trust uniforms over morals. I won't be part of that. Not here, not anywhere." Butcher's eyes narrowed. "You really believe that, don't you?" he said. "I have to," Cap said, "or I shouldn't be holding this shield." Butcher stared into his drink. "Thing is, mate," he said, voice softer, "belief doesn't stop planes from falling. It doesn't stop a soup from frying a family because he sneezes at the wrong time. The only thing that stops that is putting them in the ground." He looked up again. "So here's my warning," he said. "One day, your lot is going to have a choice. You either leave or you stay. If you stay, sooner or later, someone will try to put you in charge. And when that happens, you'll be one bad day away from being him." He jabbed a thumb at Homelander on the screen. "And when that day comes," he said, "I'll be there, with a gun, for you too." Cap didn't bristle. He just nodded once. "Then I guess my job," he said, "is to make sure that day never comes." Butcher laughed, a bitter barking sound. "Good luck, Captain," he said. "You're going to need it." Huey sat on the couch in the safe house, staring at his hands. They were shaking. He had watched Hulk slam Homelander into the concrete. He had watched Thor call down lightning that turned the air white. He had seen Iron Man throw himself between a hail of bullets and a group of dock workers without even thinking. He had also watched Homelander float in front of a camera and turn into a victim with 3 carefully chosen sentences. Annie sat next to him, barefoot, hair damp from a quick shower. She looked tired. "How did it go?" Huey asked. "With your team?" "After." Annie let out a breath. "Maeve's done," she said. "She said she's tired of playing bodyguard for a man-child while some real gods fly around. As he trains trying to spin it as he slipped, the Deep thinks this is his chance to get back into the spotlight. And Homelander..." She rubbed her arms. "He's scared, which means he's dangerous." MM paced nearby, reading a printed report. Frenchie and Kimiko sorted gear on the kitchen table. "We can't let Vought spin this into evil aliens," MM said. "If they turn the whole world against the Avengers, we lose our best shot at taking Homelander down." "But if we trust the Avengers too much," we said, "we could be helping build new gods, stronger ones we definitely can't stop." Annie looked at him. "You saw them," she said. "They saved those people. They risked themselves. They felt real." Huey nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. "That's what scares me, because we want to believe in them, and that's how people got stuck worshipping Homelander in the first place." Frenchie looked up. "Maybe we do not need to worship them," he said. "Maybe we need to work with them. Use them, like a big, loud tool. Point them at the monsters and hope they don't turn." Butcher came in then, coat still smelling like the bar. "We're setting up a meeting," he said. "Full team, them and us. Time to see if they're willing to get their hands dirty." Huey swallowed. "Dirty how?" he asked. Butcher smiled, slow and sharp. "By pulling the skeletons out of Vought's closet," he said, "and chucking them on live TV. The neighborhood looked like a shrine to a fake god. Steve walked down the street with his hood up, hands in his jacket pockets. He did not wear the suit. He didn't need it to feel out of place. Every other building had a Homelander poster on it. On some, he was standing in front of a flag. On others, he was laughing with children. A small store sold Homelander cereal, Homelander juice, Homelander lunchboxes. Kids ran past, capes flapping behind them, blue capes with a white star and red stripes. Steve stopped as a little boy nearly crashed into him. "Sorry, mister," the kid said. He had a plastic Homelander mask pushed up on his head. His shirt had the soup's logo. "It's okay," Steve said. He tried to smile. "You like that hero, huh?" The boy nodded hard. "He's the best," he said. "He saves everybody. My mom says he keeps us safe from bad guys and aliens." Steve's stomach twisted. "Does she?" he said quietly. A TV in a store window showed Homelander speaking at a rally. He wore a sling on one arm and a fake bruise on his cheek. He talked about sacrifice and standing strong in the face of alien threats. The crowd chanted his name. Steve kept walking. He passed a wall with candles and photos taped to it. A memorial. He stopped to read the names. Many were children. Somewhere, sometime, Homelander or another soup had failed. Vought had covered it up. The truth had leaked out because someone had been brave. The candles said so. He thought of Butcher's warning, of Tony's face in the meeting, of Newman's careful smile. He thought of all the times people had asked him to be more than a man, a symbol, a weapon, a leader of armies. He thought of all the times he had said no. "I'm not here to be your king," he murmured to the quiet street. "I'm here to be your shield." His phone buzzed. A message from Natasha. "Meeting place set. Boys and the girl want us at their safe house." They brought snacks and guns. Steve smiled a little at that, despite himself. "On my way," he typed. He looked up at the biggest Homelander poster on the street. The soup smiled down at the city like he owned it. "Your time's coming," Steve said under his breath. "But we're going to do this right." The safe house felt cramped, with everyone inside. The Avengers leaned against walls and sat on mismatched chairs. The boys filled the gaps with sharp edges and suspicion. Starlight stood between the groups like a bridge nobody quite trusted yet. "Butcher," Steve said. "This is everyone?" "Everyone that matters," Butcher said. "Plus the wizard kid with the bugs." He nodded at Peter. "I don't do bugs. I do spiders," Peter said. Then he realized nobody cared. "Sorry, continue." Spread files on the table, photos of labs, shipping logs, payments, Vought logos everywhere. Compound V was pumped into babies, he said. But that was just phase 1. There are adult trials, secret sites, places where they keep the failures so nobody has to see them. Frenchie slid a photo across to Tony. It showed a warehouse with heavy security. "This one," Frenchie said. "We could never get close. Too many guns. Too many cameras. Rumors say they test new mixes there. Stronger, faster, more volatile." Tony's eyes flicked over it. "I saw a site like this in their files," he said. "Named as a restricted development facility. They didn't show us what they do there, which means it's bad." "We want to blow it up," Butcher said. "You lot get us in. We plant charges. We drag out any poor sod still breathing if we can. Then we turn the whole place into dust, and we leak everything to the press." Starlight shook her head. "If we just blow it up, Vought will control the story," she said. "They'll say it was a terrorist attack. They'll hide the evidence again. We need proof. We need files. We need names. So people can't look away this time." Tony nodded. "She's right," he said. "We don't beat a media empire by leaving them holes to fill with lies. We beat them by dumping so much truth on them that they choke." Bruce's voice came from a speaker on the table. "And we need to think about the science," he said. "If they're mixing new forms of V, we can't just blow containers and hope it all burns. Some things spread when you burn them. We could make things worse." Silence fell for a moment. Steve looked around the room. "Okay," he said. "We do both. We get the proof. We rescue whoever we can. We destroy what we can't let them keep. Carefully. He tapped the photo of the warehouse. Start here, he said. Show me where their test sites are. I want to see what they did to your kids. And their kids. Huey looked at him surprised. Why? He asked. You could just hit the big tower. Hit Homelander. Hit Vought. Steve shook his head. I'm not fighting just a man or a building, he said. I'm fighting a system. Systems grow in the cracks. I need to see the cracks. Butcher's eyes narrowed, but he nodded slowly. We know one neighborhood where a lot of early V kids came from, said. Accidents, disappearances, people who got sick and then vanished. There's a facility near there, an old factory nobody's allowed near. Steve looked at Natasha, Clint, and Peter. You three with me, he said. We go in quiet, talk to people, find out what we're walking into. He looked at Tony and Thor. You two stay ready, he said. If things go loud, we'll need you. Butcher leaned back. You're making this a side trip, he said. You don't have to. You could just smash. Steve met his eyes. If I smash without understanding, he said, I become the thing you hate. I'm not here for that. He looked around at both teams. I'm here to see your world, he said. All of it. Then we decide how to help. Huey felt something move in his chest. Hope. Fear. Both. Annie reached for his hand under the table and squeezed. Outside, the city lights flickered. Somewhere, deep underground, something big moved in its tank and dreamed of storms it had never seen. The neighborhood did not show up on tourist maps. The buildings sagged, paint peeled. A playground sat empty, swings creaking with no kids on them. A Vought Community Support Center stood at the middle of the block, its windows bright, its walls covered in posters of smiling soups with slogans about opportunity and safety. Steve walked down the sidewalk in plain clothes, a cap pulled low, a backpack over one shoulder. Natasha strolled at his side, looking like a bored girlfriend killing time. Clint followed a few steps behind, pretending to check his phone. Peter carried a camera around his neck, playing the part of a student doing a project. Remember, Natasha said softly, we're not here to start a fight. We're here to listen. Steve nodded. Listening, he said. I can do. They stopped at a small corner shop to buy water. The woman behind the counter scanned their bottles without looking up, eyes fixed on a tiny TV by the register. Homelander's face filled the screen. He'll get those aliens, she muttered. He always does. Steve put money on the counter. Has this area had a lot of trouble? He asked gently. She looked at him for the first time. Her eyes were tired. You're not from around here, she said. No, Steve said. We're just passing through. She shrugged. We had trouble years ago, she said. Vought came, said they were building a clinic, gave out free checkups for babies, said they'd make our kids special, strong. Then some kids got sick. Some disappeared. They called it moving away for treatment. Her mouth twisted. Nobody heard from them again. Peter swallowed hard. He thought of the kids he'd seen swinging off buildings in his own world, laughing through their fear. He thought of them just vanishing. Did anyone ask questions? He said. Some tried, the woman said. They got paid, or they got scared, or they got gone. She looked back at the TV. Doesn't matter. Homelander keeps us safe now. That's what they say. Steve glanced at the community support center across the street. A security guard stood at the door, arms crossed, Vought badge on his chest. Thank you, Steve said, for telling us. They left the shop, and walked toward the center. The guard eyed them. "Closed today," he said. "I saw a sign for help with medical records," Steve said. "We were hoping." The guard's hand drifted toward his radio. "I said, we're closed," he repeated. "Come back next week." Natasha's eyes flicked to Steve. "We're not getting in that way," she murmured. Clint had walked around the block. His voice came through their earpieces. "I see a lot of extra cameras here," he said. "Roof, alley, utility poles. Way more than a normal support center. Something's under this place they don't want people near." Peter looked up. "There's a big factory 2 streets over," he said. "Old brick, boarded windows, but the boards look new, and the fence has razor wire. Got a bad feeling." Steve checked the map on his phone. The factory matched the one from MM's files. "Okay," he said. "We go see the factory. Talk to anyone living nearby. Try not to spook the guards." "Wow," Peter muttered. "So this is what a quiet mission feels like." "Enjoy it," Natasha said. "They never last." The boys' van sat 2 blocks away, engine off. MM watched the same factory through binoculars. Perimeter cameras, motion sensors, 2 guard posts on the ground, probably more inside, he said. Frenchie traced lines on a blueprint. "Sewers run under the south wall," he said. "Ventilation shaft on the roof. And there is this old delivery tunnel here, sealed off on the public side. Vought side probably still open." Kimiko sat by the back doors, hands flexing. She didn't like waiting. Huey looked out the windshield and blinked. Guys," he said. "We've got company." Steve, Natasha, Clint and Peter walked into view, studying the factory carefully. Steve stopped, squinted at the fence, then glanced around like he felt eyes on him. MM cursed softly. "They beat us to it," he said. Butcher, sitting in the passenger seat, smiled. "Perfect," he said. "Let's go say hello." They met in the shadow of the factory wall. Steve had just found a blind spot between 2 cameras when a voice spoke from the alley behind him. "Nice bit of scouting," Butcher said, "for tourists." Steve turned. Natasha and Clint shifted their weight, ready. Peter nearly tripped over his own feet, then tried to stand tall. The boys stepped out of the gloom. Butcher with his smirk, MM steady as a rock, Frenchie twitchy and thoughtful, Kimiko silent and lethal, Huey nervous but determined. "Well," Clint said, "this isn't awkward at all." "Relax," Huey blurted. "We're not here to fight. We're here for that." He jerked his thumb at the factory. "So are we," Steve said. Butcher eyed the fence, then the cameras, then Steve. "Tell me this," Butcher said. "If we find a room full of monsters in there, what do you do? Arrest them? Give them a stern speech? Or put them down so they can't hurt anyone else?" Steve met his gaze. "Depends who the monsters are," he said, "and how much choice they had." Butcher snorted. "You really don't make this easy," he said. "Fine. Truce for 1 night. We get in. We get what we need. We get out. We'll argue about morals later." Natasha nodded. "Sounds like a plan I can work with," she said. Frenchie looked up at the roofline. "Vent shafts are small," he said, "but our spider friend could squeeze through." Peter blinked. "Me," he said. "Right, spiders. I can do spiders." Kimiko touched the wall lightly, feeling the faint vibration of machines deep inside. Her jaw clenched. "Whatever they're doing in there," Huey said, "we can't let it keep going." Steve looked at the dark windows, at the razor wire, at the worn pavement where trucks had come and gone. "No," he said, "we can't." The inside of the factory smelled like metal and chemicals. They moved in teams. Steve, Natasha, Butcher, and MM took the ground floor. slipping past patrols and cameras using a mix of spy skill and local tricks. Clint and Frenchie handled the security system, knocking out alarms one by one. Peter crawled through vents, sending back images of hallways and labs. Kimiko stayed near the front, ready to stop any guards who got too close. Lots of empty rooms, Peter whispered over comms. Old machines, dust, nothing exciting. Wait, found something. His lens sent back a view of a thick steel door with a glowing keypad. A Vought logo shone on the metal. And that, Frenchie said, is our main course. They regrouped at the door. Clint set up a small device on the keypad. It beeped softly as it tried codes. Natasha watched the hallway. We've got maybe 5 minutes before a guard loop resets, she said. Make it fast. Done, Clint said. The lock clicked. The door slid open. Cold air rolled out. And something else. A hum in the bones. They stepped inside. The room was big and dim, lit by greenish light. Tanks lined the walls. Some were empty, slime clinging to the glass. Others held shapes that made Huey's stomach twist. Twisted bodies, half-formed limbs, people who had been pumped full of wrong. Only one tank was still fully active. It stood in the center of the room, cables and tubes snaking out of it like metal vines. The fluid inside was thick and blue-white. A figure floated in it, large and broad. Tony's voice crackled in Steve's earpiece. He was tapped into the room through Peter's camera feed. Cap, Tony said, I'm reading some very bad things from that tank. Steve stepped closer, keeping his shield ready. The figure inside was bigger than Hulk in his calm state, but more human-shaped. Its skin shifted, flickering from green to pale to faintly glowing gold. Storm-like energy crawled over its arms. Its hands clenched and unclenched, sending ripples through the fluid. Bruce's voice joined Tony's. They used our energy signatures, Bruce said, horrified. Gamma. As Guardian storm readings, your repulsor profiles, they fed them into Compound V. Frenchie held up a file he had pulled from a nearby computer. They call it Project Mjolnir, he said. Subtitle, Avenger-class asset. Butcher swore under his breath. Of course they did, he said. They took a look at you and said, how do we put that on a leash? Natasha flipped through another file. Test subjects recruited from V-positive families, she read. Promised advanced treatment. No names, just numbers. Huey's heart pounded. They're trying to build their own Avengers, he said. On purpose, in secret. Steve stared at the figure in the tank. Its eyes were closed, for now. Tony, he said, can you shut this down from your end, safely? Tony hesitated. Maybe, he said, but I'm seeing pressure spikes. That thing is close to waking up. If I kill the power wrong, we could trigger a failsafe. As if on cue, an alarm started to beep softly. A line on a nearby monitor climbed. Pressure rising, Bruce said. Heartbeat increasing. They might have set it to wake up if anyone opens the door. The figure's eyes snapped open. They glowed a sick, shifting mix of green and blue and crackling white. Everybody back, Steve snapped. The fluid in the tank boiled. Glass cracked. Lightning arced through the room, hitting metal rails and sending sparks flying. Gamma-colored light pulsed. The tank exploded. The creature dropped to the floor in a shower of glass and steaming fluid. It hit on its hands and knees, then pushed itself up. The air around it buzzed. Its muscles swelled and shrank like it was trying on different bodies. Huey could barely breathe. It felt like standing too close to a live wire. The creature looked at them. Its eyes changed color, cycling through familiar hues. Hulk's green, Thor's storm blue, the red of Tony's HUD. Then it roared. The sound shook dust from the ceiling. "Kimiko, now!" Butcher yelled. Kimiko burst through the door like a bullet, launching herself at the creature. She hit it full force in the chest, hands striking with bone-breaking power. The creature barely moved. Its skin flashed green. Kimiko's punch landed like it had hit rubber and steel. The creature cocked its head, then swatted her away. She flew across the room and crashed into a tank, cracking it. "Kimiko!" Huey cried. She groaned, then rolled to her feet, already healing. Her eyes burned. "Banner," Steve said. "We need backup." "Hulk's on his way," Bruce said. "We've got a breach in the outside walls. I'm working on it." The creature swung a fist at Steve. He raised his shield. The blow rang through his whole body, forcing him back a step. The creature hit harder than any normal soup, but not as hard as Hulk. "Target's output fluctuating," Tony said. "It's copying us, but it can't hold the power steady. That's our edge. When it shifts, it's vulnerable for half a second." "Half a second," Natasha said. She slipped around behind the creature, aiming for tendons with her batons. The creature felt her move. Lightning gathered on its skin. It blasted backward, a wave of power like Thor's storm, but jagged and wrong. Natasha jumped, rolled, narrowly avoiding the worst of it. Sparks burned her jacket. Butcher raised his gun and fired at the creature's face. Bullets bounced off as its skin flickered metal hard. "Of course," he muttered. "Bloody V." The creature stomped forward. Each step shook the floor. It grabbed a chunk of broken tank and hurled it toward the computers. Frenchie dove, dragging Huey down as glass and steel smashed into the wall. "We can't let it destroy the data," Frenchie shouted. "We need proof." Steve lunged at the creature, slamming his shield into its side. For a moment, its skin went normal, the stolen power fading. The blow knocked it a step sideways. "Keep it off the consoles," Steve said. "We need those files." Kimiko snarled and leaped again, this time aiming for its legs. She wrapped her arms around its knee and twisted. Bones cracked. The creature staggered. Its skin went green. The break healed almost instantly. It grabbed Kimiko and flung her toward the ceiling. Before she could hit, a web shot out of nowhere, catching her and slowing her fall. "Got you," Peter shouted from the doorway. He swung in, planted both feet on the creature's head, and kicked off. "Wow, you're ugly." The creature swiped at him, knuckles sparking. He ducked, slid under its arm, and shot webs at its eyes. "Can't copy what you can't see, right?" he said. The creature ripped the webs away, but for a second, its skin went pale, confused. "Hulk is there," Bruce said. The far wall exploded. Hulk burst through, roaring, concrete dust billowing around him. He saw the creature, sniffed the strange mix of his own scent and Thor's and Tony's. "Hulk does not like copycat," he growled. The creature roared back, skin shifting green again, muscles bulging to match Hulk's size. For a heartbeat, they were mirror images, one born, one built. Then they crashed together. The floor buckled. The room trembled. Tanks ruptured, spilling chemical sludge. Energy flared in wild colors as the creature's stolen powers tried to keep up with Hulk's pure, furious strength. Huey watched from behind a fallen desk, heart hammering. He had seen fights before, bloody, messy ones. But this was something else. The scale, the noise, the way the concrete cracked like cardboard under their feet. "You see," Butcher shouted over the chaos. "This is what Vought wants. Hulk in a cage, Thor in a bottle." Hulk slammed his forehead into the creature's skull. The creature reeled, skin flickering between green and pale blue. Its lightning stuttered. "Now," Tony yelled in Steve's ear. "Cap, hit the shoulder joint. Natasha, go for the spine node. Yes, that glowing thing. We need to disrupt its feedback loop. Steve didn't question it. He ran, leaped onto a fallen tank, and jumped, swinging his shield down onto the creature's right shoulder. The metal-like skin popped. Something cracked inside. Sparks flew. Natasha dove in low, battens crackling. She jammed them into a glowing patch along the creature's spine. Electricity surged, clashing with the creature's own. It screamed, a sound of rage and pain and confusion. Its skin flickered wildly. Gamma light and lightning and repulsor glow blinked out, then flared, then died back again. Hulk wrapped both arms around it and squeezed. Sleep, Hulk snarled. Go to sleep. For once, it worked. The creature's eyes rolled back. Its body went limp. Hulk held on a second longer, making sure, then let it drop to the floor with a heavy crash. The room fell silent except for the hiss of broken pipes and the beep of a few still working machines. Huey slowly unclenched his hands. He hadn't realized he'd been holding his breath. Kimiko walked up to the creature and nudged it with her foot, just to be certain. It didn't move. Bruce's voice came, shaky with relief. "Okay," he said. "Big guy's out, but he's not dead. I'm still reading brain activity. We have a window to decide what to do." Butcher walked over, gun in hand. "No decision needed," he said. He raised the gun toward the creature's head. Steve stepped between them, shield up. "No," Steve said. Butcher's eyes flashed. "Move," he said. "This thing is a bomb with legs. You want Vought to drag it out of here and slap a flag on it." Steve didn't move. "It's a victim," he said. "They built it out of stolen power and broken people. We don't shoot victims in the head while they can't move." "We do when they weigh a ton and shoot lightning," Butcher snapped. "You saw what it just did. That was just waking up. Imagine it trained. Imagine it on Homelander's leash." Huey watched them, feeling like the room had shrunk. On one side, the man who had saved him from a life of fear by showing him the ugly truth. On the other, the man who had thrown himself between bullets and strangers twice in 2 days. "We don't solve this by killing everyone they break," Steve said. "That's not justice. That's cleanup." Butcher's jaw clenched. "In my experience," he said, "cleanup is all we ever get." Natasha stepped closer. "We need this thing alive," she said, "as evidence, as leverage. If we show the world Vought built it and kept it chained, it might finally break through the spin." "And if it wakes up and tears a city in half?" Butcher asked. Tony cut in over comms. "I can help with that," he said. "There's an energy cage design I've been holding onto for the Hulk. Sorry, big guy. Never got to build it right. I can adapt it. Turn this lab into a cell. Bruce can synthesize a sedative using their own V samples." Bruce sighed. "I hate that you're right," he said, "but I can do it. It'll keep the subject under without killing it. As long as someone keeps the power on and the dose steady." Steve didn't look away from Butcher. "We're not asking you to trust Vought," he said. "We're asking you to trust us, just enough to not pull that trigger." For a long second, the only sound was the drip of fluid from a broken tank. Then Butcher lowered the gun, just a little. "You always do things the hard way, don't you?" he said. Steve let out a breath. He hadn't realized he was holding. "It's the only way that lasts," he said. Butcher holstered the gun. "Fine," he said. "We keep your pet monster breathing. But if it gets out and starts ripping heads off, I'm coming for you first." "Fair," Steve said. Huey sagged in relief. "Frenchie," MM said, "start copying everything. Files, video, scans. We leak this to the world." Frenchie was already at a console, fingers flying. "On it," he said. "We will burn Vought with their own words." Tony routed himself into the systems through Peter's feed, pulling copies of everything: test logs, emails, design plans for Avenger-class assets numbered 1 through 10. "Cap," he said, voice grim. "This isn't the only site. They're planning more. Different mixes, different templates." Steve looked at the unconscious creature, at the empty tanks around it. "We stop as many as we can," he said, "and we show everyone what they're doing, so they can't pretend not to know." Hulk snorted. "Hulk wants a smash rest," he said. "Later," Steve said. "Right now, we need you to hold still." Over the next hour, under Bruce's guidance, Tony pushed the factory's power grid into a new pattern. Energy coils whirred to life around the central tank ring. A web of glowing lines formed a cage around the creature, humming softly. Bruce mixed a sedative from the lab's own supplies, adjusting doses by eye and instinct. The creature's breathing slowed. Its skin stopped flickering. For the first time since it woke, it looked peaceful. When they were sure it would stay that way, they planted charges in rooms full of V containers and unstable tech. Enough to wreck the lab beyond use, not enough to spread anything dangerous. As they filed out, Huey paused by a side chamber. Inside, behind a glass wall, a row of beds held sedated people. Some were teenagers, some were older. All had IV lines labeled with V variants. He pressed his palm against the glass. "We'll get you out," he whispered. Annie's voice came through his earpiece. She had hacked into the feed from Vought Tower. "Vought has a convoy heading your way," she said. "Heavy security. They know something's wrong." Steve heard it too. "We don't have time to move them all now," he said. The words tasted like ash, but we have their files, their pictures, their names. That's a start. Huey wanted to argue, to throw himself at the glass, but he also remembered what Bruce had said about waking unstable V subjects without care. "Later," he said, voice thick. "We come back." Kimiko touched his shoulder, steady. They left the facility and slipped into the night as the charges blew, ripping through empty tanks and machines. Smoke rose from the factory roof. Sirens wailed. From a rooftop 2 miles away, Tony watched the plume and checked the status of the new cage. It still hummed. The creature still slept. He uploaded a package of files to a secure channel. One copy went to his own encrypted systems. Another went to a hidden server he had given Victoria Newman the address for earlier. "Let's see what you do with the truth," he muttered. On a dark street, Steve watched fire trucks rush past, heading for the burning factory. He felt tired, but there was a new kind of fire in his chest too. "We're in it now," Natasha said softly beside him. Steve nodded. "Yeah," he said. "We are." Huey stood a few steps away, watching the sirens. For the first time since Robin died, he saw a real chance. Not just to hurt the bad people in the shadows, but to drag them into the light. He also saw the cost. If Vought was willing to build copies of gods, they would not go down easy. Back at Vought Tower, in a room full of screens, Homelander watched the live feed of the burning factory. His fingers dug into the arm of his chair, hard enough to leave dents. "They're going after our assets," he said. Stan Edgar considered the same image. He thought about the files that had just been copied out of his lab. He thought about the Avengers' powers, about Newman's quiet hunger. "It seems," he said calmly, "that everyone has decided to go off script." Homelander turned to him. "So what do we do?" he asked. Edgar's eyes slid to a picture of Captain America on one of the screens, shield raised over civilians. "We adapt," Edgar said. "We always do." He did not add that sometimes, Adapting meant offering a deal even gods would find hard to refuse. The Avengers had just proven how dangerous they could be. Now the world was about to find out how dangerous they might become. 3 weeks later, the city felt different. It was not fixed, not even close. But something in the air had shifted. People still wore Homelander shirts, but some wore them with the logo crossed out. Others wore cheap homemade A-pins or painted shields on their jackets. News shows still shouted, but now some of them showed raw footage from the factory, not just Vought edits. The Avengers and the boys were busy. Most nights they ran small missions. They pulled kids out of secret V clinics. They leaked files about fake rescues and buried crimes. They shut down clean-up teams that tried to wipe witnesses. Sometimes they worked together. Sometimes they split up. But the targets all pointed in the same direction. Vought was still rich, still powerful, but it had cuts now. And people could see the blood. Their base was an old Vought warehouse by the river. The logo on the outside wall was spray-painted over. Someone had drawn a shield on top of it. Someone else had drawn a crude middle finger. No one admitted to either. Inside, Tony had turned the main floor into a strange mix of lab and war room. Stark tech hummed beside stolen Vought servers. A big hologram of the city floated above a cluster of battered tables. The running gag had grown into a daily habit. Every time Vought tried to stick its logo on something the Avengers touched, Tony hacked it. He had reprogrammed a Vought security drone so it played actual emergency info instead of ads. He had changed a billboard that said, "Homelander saves us to Homelander lied to us." He had even slipped a message into a Vought training video for new guards. The caption at the bottom read, "If your bosses tell you to shoot civilians, quit." Cap pretended not to approve, but sometimes, when he thought no one was looking, he smiled. That morning, the base was busy. MM and Frenchie were pinning new strings on a wall map, marking every exposed lab. Kimiko sharpened a knife. Annie and Huey sat at a corner table, drafting a joint statement for a group of whistleblower parents. Natasha and Clint cleaned weapons and listened to a police scanner. Thor and Hulk had gone to help with a dam outside the city. A storm had cracked the structure. Thor had promised to convince the clouds to behave. Hulk had promised to punch any runaway water. Tony stood at the center of the room, staring at a new hologram. It was not the city this time. It was a round device, made of smooth metal plates and glowing rings. It looked a little like the cages he had helped build in the factory, but smaller, more precise. Bruce stood beside him, arms crossed. "This was supposed to be a last resort," Bruce said. "A big red button we never push unless the world is ending." Tony's face was serious. "You helped design it," he said. "Don't get shy now." Bruce sighed. "I helped because I wanted to make sure it wasn't just a bomb," he said. "You're the one who keeps thinking in bombs." Steve walked over. "What's this?" he asked. Tony turned the hologram so Steve could see it. "A network system," Tony said. "Based on the energy cage we used on Project Mjolnir, plus some of Bruce's gammatrix, plus some tweaks from the old Sokovia failsafes. Spread enough of these around the world, linked through satellites, and we can hit every compound V signature at once." Steve's face went still. "You mean turn off every soup?" he said. Tony nodded once. "Or kill them," he said. "Depends how we set the dial." Bruce flinched at the word kill. Steve looked at him. "Whose idea was this?" he asked. A voice from the doorway answered. "Mine," Butcher said. He stepped into the light, coat flapping, eyes hard. They met in a side room, away from the others. The walls were bare. The only furniture was a table and 4 chairs. Steve, Tony, Bruce, and Butcher sat there. The air was heavy. Butcher dropped a small drive on the table. "Frenchie and I helped with the base math," he said. "We know V's range. We know its binds. With this, you can reach every soup on Earth. Switch them off, all of them, in one go." Bruce stared at the drive like it was a live grenade. "Do you hear yourself?" he asked. "You're talking about erasing an entire group of people. Some of them are kids. Some of them had no choice." "None of us had a choice," Butcher snapped. "Not Robin. Not my brother. Not any poor sod under a plane when your capes decide they're bored." He jabbed a finger at Tony. "You know better than anyone what weapons do when you leave them lying around," he said. "Vought is churning out more of them every day. Your factory pet is proof. You shut down one lab, they open 2 more. You catch one Homelander, some bastard starts cooking up the next one." Tony rubbed his temples. He was tired. He had run the numbers too. He knew Butcher wasn't wrong about the risk. "The weapon would not be clean," Bruce said. "Some bodies would not handle the shock. Some brains would break, and not only the worst ones. We don't have that kind of control. And if we aim it just at the worst," Butcher said, "Homelander, Stormfront types, Newman's friends, your monster in the cage. You can do that, can't you, Doc?" Bruce didn't answer. That was answer enough. Steve looked at Butcher. "You want us to push the button," he said. Butcher held his gaze. "I want you to understand something," he said. "You're gods here. You drop from the sky. You pick up bridges. You toss Homelander around like a rag doll. People will follow whatever you say. If you leave this world with soups still walking around, sooner or later, someone will beg you to come back and clean up." He leaned forward. "This is your shot," he said. "You push that button, and we're done. No more soups. No more gods. No more of him." He jerked his head at the nearest TV, where Homelander's face glared from the news again. "Just people. Messy, stupid, normal people. We can handle that." Steve thought of the kids in the beds. The trainee heroes in local programs Annie had started. Kimiko's quiet smiles when she helped. Starlight's light blasting guns aimed at civilians. The way some soups had reached out, wanting a chance to be better. He also thought of broken bodies in the lab tanks, of the blood on the bridge that could have been much worse, of Homelander's eyes when he almost hit those workers. Tony was watching him, waiting. "I'm not pushing a button that kills people who never got a choice," Steve said. "I won't do it." "But if you don't," Butcher said, "more people will die." Steve didn't shout. He didn't slam the table. He just shook his head. "There's a line," he said. "If we cross it, we're not heroes anymore. We're executioners, kings deciding who gets to live." He looked at Tony. "We left that behind once already," he said. "Remember?" Tony's jaw clenched. He remembered. Civil War, Ultron, the Accords. All the times big plans had blown up in his face. "We can't just walk away and hope it gets better," Tony said. "This world is broken in ways ours wasn't. That's why we fix it," Steve said. "Piece by piece, out in the open, with rules, with people involved. Not by flipping a secret switch and telling ourselves it was for their own good." Bruce let out a breath. "Thank you," he said quietly. Butcher stared at Steve like he wanted to punch him. Then, slowly, he laughed. It was not a kind sound. "Fine," he said. "Be noble. But when your kindness gets someone killed, don't come crying to me." He stood up. "You're turning down the easy way out," he said. "Remember, that when Homelander decides to make his big move. He left the drive on the table and walked out. Tony picked it up. "What are you going to do with that?" Steve asked. Tony turned it over in his fingers. It felt heavier than it should. "I'm going to make sure nobody uses it," he said. The offer came the next day. They were all in the main room when the screens flickered. Every channel cut to the same image. Victoria Newman, standing at a podium, with flags of many countries behind her. "Here we go," Natasha muttered. Newman's face was calm. Her voice was warm. She spoke about fear and chaos, about Vaught's crimes, about Homelander's lies, about the need for a new era of real accountability. She did not mention that she could burst heads with a glance. Then she said the words that made the room go quiet. "We live in a world of gods now," she said. "Some of them were made in labs. Some fell from the sky, but they are here. We can't pretend they are not. What we can do is make sure they answer to us, all of us, not to a company, not to a single nation, to the whole world." A graphic appeared beside her, a symbol, a circle with a shield in the middle. Around it, small icons of different hero symbols. Some looked very much like the Avengers, some like the Sevens. "I propose the Global Peacekeeper Initiative," Newman said. "A treaty, a council, and a team. Supers from every nation, working under shared rules, watched by citizens, backed by law, and led, at first, by the only people strong enough to stand up to Vought and Homelander." The graphic zoomed in on a familiar red, white, and blue shield. "We invite the Avengers," she said, "to become the first global peacekeepers." Peter's mouth dropped open. "She wants you to run the world," he blurted. "Not just me," Steve said automatically. "All of us." Then he realized that didn't make it better. On another screen, a chat bar filled with comments. Some were cheering. Some were scared. Some wrote things like "better Avengers than Vought" and "no gods, no masters." Newman kept talking. "With their help," she said, "we can regulate Compound V. We can dismantle Vaught's worst projects. We can protect everyone, not just those with money. This is our chance to finally take power back." Thor scratched his beard. "She flatters you, Captain," he said. "In my realm, that is often a prelude to a very long war." Bruce watched the screen thoughtfully. "She's smart," he said. "She's using your face as a symbol. You're their way to sell rules." Tony watched too. His mind ran ahead. With real authority, they could shut down V-Labs, arrest the worst soups, force change at the top. No more sneaking through sewers, no more guessing games. "And in return," Natasha said, "they put a leash on you, on all of us. Policy meetings, votes, pressure. Do this, Captain, or the people will be scared." Sound familiar? Steve's shoulders felt heavy. The shield on the screen stared back at him. Huey's phone buzzed. A message from Butcher. "See? Told you. They'll beg you to rule." Annie looked at Steve. "If you say yes," she said softly, "a lot of people will feel safer, even if you're not really in charge, even if she is." Steve took a slow breath. "If we say yes," he said, "we turn into the thing we've been fighting. Not all at once, not in a day, but little by little. Taking orders from the top, telling ourselves it's for the greater good." He shook his head. "We help," he said. "We support local law when it's honest. We push for real oversight of Vought and soups. But we do not become the world's police. Not again." Tony snorted. "Didn't think I'd ever hear you say no to a government gig," he said. "Thought that was my brand." "People can change," Steve said. "Even stubborn people." "Speaking of stubborn," Bruce said, "Homelander has been quiet since the port. Too quiet. Vaught's losing ground. He's losing worship. He won't let that stand. As if on cue, the screens flickered again. The image changed to live footage. A huge plaza. A stage in front of a government building. Banners for the peacekeeper speech hung half-torn. People were running in every direction. At the center of the stage, Homelander stood with one hand clamped around a politician's neck. The man's face was red, eyes bulging. A ring of hostages knelt behind them. Some wore suits. Some wore security uniforms. Some were just random citizens who had been too slow to run. Above them, metal beams glowed where heat vision had carved words into them. "Leave my world." Homelander stared into the nearest camera, eyes bright. "All you little people watching at home," he said, voice echoing from the plaza speakers. "You see what they're doing, right? These aliens, these Avengers, these politicians. They want to take me away from you. They want to replace me with their own brand of gods." He tightened his grip on the politician's throat. The man gasped. "You don't want that," Homelander said. "You love me. I know you do. So here's how this goes. Avengers, peacekeepers, whatever you want to call yourselves, you either leave this world today, or you kneel right here, on this stage, in front of everyone, and you admit you'll do things my way." He smiled, but it was all teeth. "Or I start killing," he said. "One by one. Live on TV. Let's see whose ratings drop faster." Panic rippled through the plaza. Security forces stayed back, guns lowered. No one trusted bullets around Homelander and that many hostages. "Tony," Steve said, "how fast can we get there?" "Already plotting," Tony said. He snapped his fingers. "Suit up, everyone. We've got a narcissist with a microphone and a death wish." They moved like they always did now, fast, with a plan. Cap, Thor, Hulk, Natasha, and Clint took the direct route in the Quinjet. Tony flew ahead. Peter, Annie, Huey, Frenchie, Kimiko, and Butcher took side routes, slipping through security lines and back alleys. On the Quinjet, Steve laid it out. "Priority 1, hostages," he said. "Priority 2, no mass panic. Priority 3, Homelander contained. Alive if possible. Dead only if there is absolutely no other choice." Thor frowned. "You really think he deserves to live after all he's done?" he asked. Steve shook his head. "I don't think anyone deserves anything," he said. "I think killing him on live TV turns him into a legend. I'd rather he end up as a mugshot in a file." Hulk cracked his knuckles. "Hulk fine with punching legend," he said. "Try not to break too many buildings," Natasha said. "We don't need another Sokovia here." They dropped into the edges of the plaza. The scene was worse on the ground. Smoke hung in the air from burned cop cars. People were pressed against barricades, phones up. Drones buzzed overhead. On a big screen, Homelander's face filled the frame like a tiki idol. He had already killed one guard. The body lay on the steps, uniform scorched. He let his boot rest on the man's chest like a trophy. "Where are you, Avengers?" he called. "Too scared to come face me without your little alien friends?" Tony's voice came over the comms. "Cap, we've got extra problems," he said. "I'm reading explosives planted around the plaza, wired to his heart rate. If he goes into full panic or flatlines, boom." Steve's stomach dropped. "How many?" he asked. "Enough to make a whole new crater in the middle of town," Tony said. "Frenchie's already moving on the ones he can reach, but we can't count on getting them all before things go bad." "Wonderful," Natasha said. "So we have to calm the ticking time bomb while we stop the walking one." "Story of our lives," Clint said. They slipped into position. Thor rose into the sky, clouds darkening at his call. Hulk crouched behind a toppled statue, ready to charge. Natasha, Clint, Kimiko, and Frenchie moved along the edges, eyes on bomb locations and possible shots. Annie and Peter blended with the crowd near the front, hoods up. Huey stayed low, following Frenchie's lead on devices. Butcher stood on a rooftop across the plaza, binoculars in one hand, the soup kill drive in his pocket. He didn't trust that Tony had left it unused. Part of him still wanted to push it himself. "Positions," Steve said quietly. "On my mark." Homelander threw the dead guard aside. "Guess I have to sweeten the deal," he said. He grabbed a young woman from the front row of hostages and lifted her by the throat. She clawed at his hand, eyes bulging. The crowd screamed. Steve stepped forward, shield on his arm, suit bright in the smoky light. "Let her go," he called. Homelander's head snapped around. For a moment, fear flickered in his eyes. Then it twisted into something like joy. "There you are," he said. "Captain Alien." "It's Captain America," Steve said. "And you don't have to do this." "Oh, I really, really do," Homelander said. "Because if I don't, the story changes. I stop being the hero. I become just another soup on a leash, and I'd rather die." He squeezed. The woman choked. "Last chance," he said. "Kneel, or watch her die." Every camera zoomed in, hungry. Steve did something unexpected. He dropped his shield. It hit the pavement with a clang. The crowd gasped. Even Homelander looked confused. Steve took a slow step forward, hands open. "I won't kneel to you," he said, "but I will make you an offer. Let her go. Let them all go. Come with us. Face trial. Tell the truth about what Vought did to you. You hate being owned. This is your way out." Homelander stared at him. For a heartbeat, something weak and human flickered in his face. A scared kid in a lab. A boy who never had a real choice. Then his eyes went flat again. "You think you can fix me with a speech?" he said. "You think you can fix any of this?" He laughed. "No," he said. "The only way this ends is with blood." He tightened his grip. Annie ripped off her hood. Her eyes blazed. "Then let it be yours," she said. She exploded with light. The plaza lit up like a small sun had dropped into it. Cameras whited out. People screamed and covered their faces. Homelander shouted, blinded. His grip loosened. The woman slipped from his hand and fell. Peter swung out of the crowd, webbing her chest and pulling her to safety, heart pounding. "Got you," he gasped. Thor hurled Mjolnir. The hammer struck Homelander in the chest, hard. The soup flew backward, through the air, into the open space at the top of the steps. "Now!" Tony yelled. He dove from above, new device in hand. The thing Butcher had wanted to be a global kill switch was not that anymore. Tony and Bruce had spent the night reworking it. They had cut out the kill part. They had made it small, precise. It did one thing now. Dampen V signatures in a focused cone, long enough for a cage to close. He slammed the device into the ground at the edge of the steps. A circle of blue-white energy flared out, racing across the stone. It expanded like a ringing bell, then snapped into place, forming a dome of shimmering force around the space where Homelander had landed. Inside the dome, the air buzzed. Homelander staggered to his feet, blinking away light spots. He tried to fly and stumbled. He tried to fire his heat vision and got nothing but a faint red glow. "What?" he said. Hogg charged up the steps and hit the edge of the dome. His fist stopped an inch from the barrier, pressed, then slid aside. "Barrier keeps him in," Tony said. "Keeps you out, for now. Don't hit it too hard, big guy. It's still a prototype." Homelander slammed his fists against the inside of the dome. "Let me out," he shouted. "I'm Homelander. I'm..." Cap walked up and picked up his shield. He stepped just outside the dome. The two men stood inches apart, separated by a thin wall of light and science and choices. "The cameras are back," Natasha said softly into his earpiece. "Everyone's watching." Homelander saw the nearest drone and straightened up. Blood ran from one nostril. His suit was torn. His hair was a mess. He forced a smile. "People," he said, projecting his voice. "Look at what they're doing. They're locking me up. Your hero, your protector, these aliens, these traitors, they—" Cap cut him off. "People," Steve said, looking into the same lens. "Look at what he's done." On giant screens around the plaza, hacked feeds flickered. Tony had plugged the device into every signal in range. Footage from the factories played. Footage from the plane they had never saved. Footage from the bridge, uncut. Hostages, cover-ups, blood. Homelander's image shrank next to the truth. "This is who he is," Steve said. "Not the poster, not the cereal box. This, a man who kills when no one is looking. A man who works for a company that turned your children into products." He rested one hand on the dome. "And this is what we're doing," he said. "We are not killing him. We are not making him a martyr. We are putting him in a cell. He will get a trial. In public, with real evidence, with you watching." He looked around at the crowd. "No more secrets," he said. "No more gods." For a moment, the plaza was silent. Then someone in the back shouted, "About time." Others joined in. Some cried, some cursed. Some still shouted Homelander's name, but their voices were lost under the new noise. Annie's light dimmed. She sank to her knees, shaking. Huey rushed to her side. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, wiping tears. "Yeah," she said, "just bright." Frenchie and MM finished, defusing the last of the bombs. Natasha and Clint guided hostages away from the stage. Kimiko disarmed a panicking soup guard with one quick move and handed him to officers with shaking hands. On the rooftop, Butcher watched it all. He saw Homelander pound on the dome, screaming. He saw the crowd's faces. He saw Steve refusing to kill when it would have been so easy. He felt the small, ugly part of himself that still wanted to see Homelander's blood spray across the steps. He reached into his pocket and held the little drive. He thought about pushing it into his phone, about sending the kill signal anyway, just for Homelander, just to be sure. Then he closed his fist around it. "Not today," he muttered. He flicked the drive off the roof. It clinked against the wall on the way down and vanished in the trash below. "Oi," MM's voice said from his earpiece. "You see that? They did it without killing him." "Yeah," Butcher said. "Bloody idiots." He couldn't quite keep the small smile out of his voice. Once the hostages were safe and the bombs were cleared, a new kind of meeting began. In a secure room under the plaza, with the dome now anchored into the ground and reinforced, Newman stood with Steve, Tony, Annie, Huey, MM, Frenchie, Natasha, Bruce, and a few world leaders. On screens around the room, more leaders watched from other countries. The world had tuned in. They were not turning away. Homelander paced inside the dome like a caged animal. Every so often he screamed at someone. No one went near him. "We have him," Newman said. "That changes everything." "It changes nothing if you hide what he did behind closed doors again," Steve said. "He gets a trial, real one, witnesses, evidence, full broadcast." Newman held his gaze. "You're asking for chaos," she said. "People will riot. Some will still love him. Some will hate him. Soups will feel threatened. Vought will try to twist it." "They're already twisting it," Tony said. "We just gave them less room to lie in." Newman folded her arms. "What What about the others? She asked. The ones not in cages yet, the ones still on V, the kids in those beds, the mid-level soups guarding warehouses, the ones whose only crime so far is existing. Bruce spoke. We keep working with you, he said. On V regulation, on tech like the dampener, on ways to shut down powers safely when someone crosses the line, but no global kill switch, no secret peacekeeper club. Newman looked at him. You're refusing my offer, she said. Steve nodded. We're refusing to rule your world, he said. We'll help. We'll show up when called as a last resort. We'll train people. We'll share tech. But we will not sit in a tower and decide who lives and who dies. One of the leaders on the screen spoke up. What if the people want you to? He asked. They already hold you up as heroes. If they vote for you to lead. Then we say no, Steve said. We're not weapons for hire. We're not kings. We're guests who are trying to leave your world better than we found it. Annie stepped forward. And you, she said to Newman, don't get to hide behind them either. You want real oversight. Start with yourself. Register your own powers. Put your own name on every bill that touches V. Let people see what you can do. Newman's jaw tightened. For a moment, her friendly mask slipped. Then she smiled again, slow and careful. You're asking a lot, she said. We're giving a lot, Tony said. Our tech, our time, our lives maybe. Seems fair. Newman looked back at Homelander. He'll never accept any of this, she said. He doesn't have to, Steve said. He just has to sit in that cage and listen. She laughed once, without humor. All right, she said. We do it your way, public, messy, slow. But don't blame me when the streets burn. Steve met her eyes. We'll be there, he said, helping put out the fires, with buckets, not bombs. Later, when they had a quiet moment, Tony and Bruce stood in front of the dampener device. We could have ruled this place, Tony said lightly. You as the angry science god, me as the charming tech god, Steve as the sad-eyed king in the north. Bruce shook his head. We've tried ruling, he said. It never fits. Tony tapped the metal shell. So, he said, from kill all soups to put up fences around the worst ones. Think that's enough? Bruce stared at his own reflection in the polished surface. It's not perfect, he said, but it's a start. We're taking power away from companies and monsters. We're not putting it in our own pockets. That's something. Thor joined them, watching Homelander rage in the distance. In my home, Thor said, we learned a hard lesson. Keeping all the power in one palace rots the walls from the inside. Spreading it hurts too, but at least it lets people breathe. Tony shrugged. Who knew the god of thunder would end up on the side of small government, he said. Thor grinned. I have been around, he said. I learn things. Steve walked up, shield on his arm. Decision made, he said. We're not peacekeepers. We're consultants. Tony smirked. That's a terrible brand, he said. We'll workshop it. They all turned to watch Homelander for a moment. He slammed his fist into the dome again and again. It held. Now we figure out what normal looks like here, Steve said. At least for a while. Normal, Bruce said. We live in a world with gamma monsters and lightning gods. I don't think that word means what you think it means. Steve smiled. Then we'll build a new one, he said. They walked back toward the base of the tower, where plans for a different kind of machine waited. Not a weapon. A door. Home was still out. There, somewhere. But for now, this world needed them, and they had chosen how to help. The park was small and a little worn out, but it was busy. Kids ran on the grass. Parents sat on benches. A food truck sold cheap hot dogs and cheaper soda. Someone had painted over an old Vought ad on the park wall with a mural of different heroes standing together. Some wore capes, some wore street clothes. One of them looked a lot like Starlight. One of them had a round shield. Steve sat on a bench near the playground, hands folded, watching. A little girl in a homemade cape ran past. Her cape was blue with red and white stripes. On one side was Homelander's symbol. On the other side, painted over it, was a rough circle with a star. She tripped, rolled, laughed, and got back up. Annie sat at the other end of the bench, sunglasses on, hoodie up. She could have just been a normal young woman out people watching. Huey sat between them, hunched forward, elbows on his knees. "They still sell Homelander toys," he said. "Even now, even after everything." Annie shrugged. "Toys were made months ago," she said. "Takes time to change factories. Takes longer to change minds." On a nearby screen, a news anchor spoke. The caption read, "Homelander trial, day 3. Under it, a smaller line scrolled, "New protections for V-Kids passed." The feed showed Homelander in a courtroom, sitting at a table, hands bound. He glared at everyone. When a victim spoke, he looked away. People at home watched. Some turned the TV off. Some kept it on and listened. "Do you think they'll actually convict him?" Huey asked. Steve nodded slowly. "They have evidence," he said. "Real evidence. Not edits, not spin. I don't know what sentence he'll get, but whatever happens, people will have seen the truth. That matters." Huey thought about Robin, about the smeared blood on the street, about the empty space that had been his whole life. "I wish you could see this," he said. Annie took his hand. "She'd be proud of you," she said. Steve watched the kids. Some wore little A pins. Some wore shirts with Starlight's symbol. One boy had drawn a Hulk face on his backpack. Another had a sticker that just said, "People helping people." Tony had hacked that phrase into one of the last Vought broadcasts before they went under. He hadn't even signed it. It had stuck. "Strange to see kids wearing your logo and not worshipping you," Steve said. "They're not worshipping," Annie said. "They're playing. Maybe this time, that's all it will be." Near the edge of the park, Tony and Bruce stood by a tall metal frame set up on the grass. Cables snaked away from it to a generator humming softly. Thor leaned on a tree, watching. Natasha and Clint played a quiet game of cards at a picnic table. Hulk sat farther away, tossing a rock in his hand, trying not to scare toddlers. Peter lay on the grass with some kids, helping them build a web out of sticks and string. He laughed when they tied his shoelaces together by accident. The metal frame flickered. A hint of blue shimmered between its arms, then faded. "Almost," Tony said. "Need a little more juice." Thor lifted his hammer. "Say no more," he said. He gently called a thin line of lightning into the generator. It hummed louder. The portal shimmered again, this time holding for a few seconds. Shapes moved inside it. A skyline. A tower Steve knew. A world they still missed. "It's working," Bruce said. He sounded both excited and worried. "We can actually go back." "Not all at once," Tony said. "We need to secure things here first. Make sure the dampeners are launched, but not in idiot hands. Make sure V-Kids have support. Make sure Newman's new committee isn't just Vought in a new hat." "You think we'll ever be done?" Bruce asked. Tony watched the portal flicker. "No," he said. "But we can get it to a point where they don't need gods, just people. Good and bad, but people." Steve heard them. He thought about leaving, about going home, about Bucky, Sam, and the others, about a world that, for all its problems, had not started out as a lie in a lab. He also thought about this park, these kids, this trial, this slow, clumsy walk towards something like justice. "We'll know when it's time," he said quietly. Huey looked at him. "What if you stay?" he asked. "For good." Steve smiled a little. "Then we make sure we're just neighbors," he said. "Not kings." A kid ran up to him then, the same boy with the half and half cape. "Hey," the boy said. "You're Captain America, right?" Steve blinked. He glanced at Annie. She shrugged. "I might be," Steve said. The boy held out a cheap plastic Homelander mask. The paint was chipped. "I don't want this anymore," the boy said. "Can you hold it for me?" Steve took the mask. It felt light. He looked at it, at the fake smile, at the empty eye holes. "What are you going to wear instead?" Steve asked. The boy grinned. He pulled a cardboard circle from behind his back. Someone had painted it red and white with a blue star in the middle. The lines were messy. The star was crooked. It was perfect. "This," the boy said. "My mum says heroes aren't what they sell you. They're what they do." Steve felt something in his chest loosen. "Your mum is very smart," he said. The boy ran off, shield held high, cape flapping. He joined a group of other kids. They pretended to fight invisible monsters. Sometimes they pretended to fight each other. Then they laughed and switched sides. Steve stood up. He walked to the nearest trash can and dropped the plastic mask inside. Annie watched him. "Feeling okay?" she asked. He nodded. "Yeah," he said. "For now." He looked at the metal frame where the portal shimmered off and on, like a heartbeat. He looked at the city skyline, where the Vought logo was gone from its tower, replaced by a simple, boring government seal. He looked at the park, where a world with too much power was trying, slowly, to learn how to live with it. He picked up his shield. "Come on," he said. "We've got work to do. And maybe a way home to finish building." Huey smiled. "Think you'll visit?" he asked. Steve shrugged. "It's a multiverse," he said. "You never know." They walked back toward the others. Behind them, the kids kept playing. In front of them, the portal flickered, then steadied for a little longer. Somewhere out there, other worlds spun. Other stories unfolded. But for this world, for now, the biggest change was simple. The gods had come. They had fought. They had walked away from thrones and easy buttons. They had chosen instead to stand in the crowd. And when the cameras zoomed in for one last headline, Tony hacked the caption at the bottom of the screen to say just 3 plain words. People helping people.